All right, shifting our focus to more breaking news coming in. Let's talk about the claims made by Iran in the latest. Iran has said that several significant damages have been done by its own military, including US base in Kuwait that Iran says has been completely decommissioned. US base in Bahrain also hit by drones. It says severe damage has been reported. US carrier Abraham Lincoln has been attacked with 4 missiles is what Iran is claiming. In the latest, also 560 US troops killed and wounded so far. So that's the claim that's been made by Iran as far as its retaliatory action is concerned. Let's also hear it from its leadership announcing the same.
ناو هواپیمابر آبراهام لینکلن ارتش آمریکا با 4 فروند موشک کروز مورد حمله قرار گرفت. پس از حمله این ناو آمریکا از محل استقرار مأموریت خود به سمت جنوب شرق اقیانوس هند متواری شد. پایگاه دریایی السالم آمریکا در کویت در پی حملات اخیر کاملا از رده فعالیت خارج و 3 سازه زیرساختی دریایی محمد الاحمد آمریکا در کویت نیز منهدم شدند. پایگاه دریایی آمریکا در بندر سلمان بحرین مورد اصابت 4 فروند پهپاد قرار گرفته و خسارت شدیدی به مراکز فرماندهی و پشتیبانی آن وارد شده است. در ادامه حملات به اهداف دریایی دشمن متخاصم، 3 نفتکش متخلف کشورهای آمریکا و انگلیس در منطقه خلیج فارس و تنگه هرمز مورد اصابت موشکی قرار گرفته و در حال سوختن است. محل استقرار نظامیان آمریکایی در بحرین با 2 موشک بالستیک و سایر پایگاه‌های آمریکایی در منطقه مورد حملات پی در پی قرار گرفتند که این حملات منجر به کشته و زخمی شدن 560 نظامی آمریکایی تا این لحظه شده است.
All right, of course, as tensions escalate. So this is the latest that we are hearing. Of course, these are claims made by Iran. We are going to see trading fire further as well, and claims and counterclaims which will follow. For what we do know right now, it's US bases in Kuwait, which we're given to understand has been completely decommissioned, and of course the US carrier Abraham Lincoln, which also we're given to understand was
and
attacked
unexpected
with 4
lines, isn't it, Him? Iran is also escalating now the fight using the Hezbollah. So through proxies, it's waging a war against Israel. And let's see to what extent, they end up damaging US bases. These are the claims so far that have been made by Iran. But let's also give a sense of what US action is looking like. And President Donald Trump's statements, 2 of those public statements that have been made in the last few hours alone also sum up what the US intent is looking like at the moment. Donald Trump says these strikes will continue on Tehran. Let's not forget, he's also said in as many words that US will batter Iran for the next few weeks. So the United States stays committed to what it has promised. In fact, also spoke of how US has lived up to some of those promises. As for Israel, we're seeing the IDF engage with Hezbollah. So that's a little bit of a retaliation that's also being witnessed on its part. So these are 2 areas that are being focused on him, and it's going to be interesting to what level do we see an escalation in the next few hours is going to decide what happens to the entire region, because the Gulf is as much a part of the story now.
Right, and as tensions peak as well, we are also firmly focused on the disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz. Remember, that remains a bargaining chip in the entire West Asia regions and has global ramifications. We've already seen the kind of ripple impact that's had on the crude futures, the stocks that it has affected going forward. What that means even back home in India, that is something that remains to be seen as well, because the Strait of Hormuz is a crucial choke point in the region, which is very much in focus at this point. When we talk about Israel and the United States saying that they fulfilled a certain promise here, as Kritzween was mentioning earlier. Remember, Kritzween, earlier we also heard Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu say that this is something that I've longed to do, yearned to do for 40 years. And now I have the assistance of my friend, the United States. And in light of that, this joint operation that we're seeing right now, what really is the end game is the question here. With Khamenei eliminated, what happens going forward? There's also a vacuum in Iran that remains to be seen what happens there.
Yeah. And the last 2 decades, in fact, have summed up that story both for US and Israel. Both for the last 2 decades have accused Iran of secretly developing a nuclear weapon. And that is the problem that lies at the heart of this conflict, is what we were seeing both sides also looking at achieving through negotiations that clearly fell flat. As for Iran, while it's making all these tall claims, can Iran realistically sustain a prolonged conflict with these two superpowers, Israel, US? Remember, all of this has happened in a planned manner because clearly Iran was not able to defend its airspace. Clearly, we saw that Iran's missile and drone capabilities, even though they're spoken of largely, have only come in as retaliation. They really could not prevent the kind of damages we've seen all of Iran, which also include the big claim that has been made by the United States that the supreme commander has been neutralized, which in itself is a big, big setback. So what this means for the leadership going forward remains to be seen. What's also interesting is whether cyber warfare becomes a major battlefield going forward in this conflict, and to what extent. So far, what we can tell you, the details that we're putting out on our screens as well, these are claims that have been made by Iran. But parallelly, the other significant development is the back and forth between Hezbollah and the IDF. Israeli forces now carrying out airstrikes on some of these Hezbollah operatives, because Hezbollah was the first to make the move on part of Iran. Iran clearly now resorting to proxies in taking on Israel. So for now, IDF and Hezbollah currently, at loggerheads. They've locked horns. That's the latest coming in. The other concern, which is being put out by the world largely, is whether or not international law has been violated. Is this, or can this be seen as self-defense, or there are problems that lie here? And there are several experts who've also weighed in and made comparisons to what kind of precedent perhaps US President Donald Trump could be setting, and a wrong precedent at that, because this could mean that Russia may want to take cue in conquering Ukraine. This could also mean China may make a similar move in taking over Taiwan. So those are concerns that several geopolitical analysts have spoken of on what kind of precedent does this really set. But the global community is reacting. Countries not very divided at the moment. We do see how several European nations, at least strategically, have come out in support of US, clearly aligned with the United States, especially given what we've seen in Gulf nations, how some of these Iranian strikes on US bases have also inflicted heavy casualty, at least at civilians or civilian areas to begin with.
Absolutely, Kritsween. Of course, many also contending that two things can be true, saying that the West perhaps is playing an aggressor here, as well as the fact that, of course, the Iranian regime is responsible for the oppression of millions of Iranian people. Now, we'll continue to ask these questions and bring you more developments on this front. With that, we're going to slip into a very short break, but don't go anywhere. News and updates will continue on the other side on CNN News 18. Do stay tuned.